Hey everyone, welcome to this 25th, that's right, it's the 25th edition of the Animated Girl Profiles Confidential. This is a playlist, of course, you can find here on my YouTube channel, as well as you can find it at Play for Cinema's YouTube channel as well. And the character we're going to talk about on this 25th edition is none other than, as you can see, Amy Rose. That's right. And Amy Rose, let me put it to you like this with Amy. Amy is one of those characters that has a fan base that is divided in some ways. In other words, she has a fan base that, let's just put it this way, no offense, she has a fan base that's a shipper's fantasy. In other words, basically, depending on how you feel, depending on how you feel, certain Amy fans will ship her or want her to be with certain other male characters. And most importantly, of course, they want her to be with Sonic, which, is pretty much a given. It's pretty much a given that they want her to be with Sonic. And, that shipping right there causes basically one of the biggest, I guess you could say, like I said, it starts when, basically her being shipped with Sonic causes some of the biggest debates and stuff in the franchise, because of course there's a lot of fans that want Sonic to be with Sally Acorn or another character that isn't Amy. But yeah, her fan base really spans into those areas. Some fans at times would want her to be with Tails, some would rather she be with Shadow, and some kind of wanted to go in a certain other direction, if you kind of catch my drift. And by doing so, put her with someone they feel she's more compatible with. Now, Amy, well, her history as a character is a very unique one in itself, though. You see, depending on how you look at it and how far you want to research, her history can actually be traced, in a sense, all the way back to a Magna, if you will, that was, based loosely or adapted from Sonic, the Sonic games, if not vice versa. The Magna basically involved a character named Nikki that, let's just say, like certain superheroes, put on a certain pair of shoes and he became Sonic. And essentially that's how Amy Rose came to be. She first appeared in that Magna. Now, of course, in 1993, she also made her official debut in the video games in Sonic CD. Now, in which you had to rescue her. Yeah, you had to rescue her in Sonic CD. But here's a unique little bit of trivia some people may or may not know. You see, when Sonic CD was released in Japan, I think she had already had the name of Rosie the Rascal. I think she was already given the name of Rosie the Rascal. But when it was released here in North America, she didn't have no name. We didn't know her name was Rosie the Rascal until later on. So, because of the fact that they wanted to, I guess, get this game out in time for the holiday season, they decided that to tie it in with the Western portion of the Sonic franchise, they decided, and I think it was Sega of America that did this, along with Sega of Japan or someone, they decided to name Amy Rose in Sonic CD as Princess Sally. That's no joke. They actually named her Princess Sally to tie in with the Western portion of the Sonic franchise, especially the comics and the Saturday morning cartoon series. And I'll tell you this, from my own personal experience, because I was like 14 years old. People like, let's say, Zara Nizarak were like 21 or something like that. I remember basically looking at that, because, you know, just like GameStop does nowadays, Blockbuster and other video stores used to have these little gaming hubs, panels, where you can play the games. Now, last time I checked, the Walmart in Modesto had something similar with several gaming consoles. They may have taken it out, but they had something similar. But basically, long story short, when I looked at the manual that was hooked up, you know, by, of course, a chain, well, not a chain, but basically a little leash, or whatever you want to call it, hook, and basically held on by a hook or a leash, whatever you want to call it. I looked at the manual, and when I saw it called the character in there Princess Sally, I was like, looks nothing like Sally. You know, that is not Sally at all, you know. And again, it wasn't until later on, for a brief period, that she was renamed, she was given the name that she had in Japan, which was Rosie the Rascal. And then a little bit later on, she was given the name Amy Rose. So, yeah. She went through, well, she went through quite the name change, I will say that, when it came to Sonic CD and her debut here in North America. She went, like I say, through quite the name change. There's no doubt about that. Now, officially, I believe, or one of her official debuts as a playable character and with the Amy Rose name was with the Sonic the Fighters game that also was out, I believe, for the CD as well as the 32X. And it was also an arcade game too, but anyway, that was one of her first playable appearances and one of her first appearances under the name of Amy Rose. Now, even though it is true that she's been in more Sonic-related, how do I put this? Mediums. You know, she's been more Sonic-related medias, if you will. You know, it is true that she's been in more Sonic-related mediums than any other female character around in the Sonic franchise, gaming or non-gaming. But it wasn't until she made her appearance in the comics, the Archie comics, that she really started to kind of develop as a character. Now, true, she also was in the Fleetway Sonic the comics, and character personality was kind of a little bit more different. The UK Sonic the comic by Fleetway was a little bit more, had a little bit more leeway to it, so they were able to develop the character beyond what you saw in the game. The Amy that was in the comics was a little bit more closer to what she was in the games, but she did throughout her run and current run in the comics start to develop into more of an interesting character. She started to become more developed, if you will. In fact, one of her biggest moments in the comic, if you will, one of her biggest moments in the comic, as far as I know, was around issue 75, 76, something like that, when she was helping to evacuate people from Mobotropolis, because Eggman, who was known then as Robo-Robotnik and then later Eggman, as far as the comics continuity was concerned, was reclaiming the city as Robotropolis once again. So, yeah, it was basically back to square one for the characters. But anyway, like I said, Amy Rose, that was probably her biggest moment at that time, and she had been in the comic, as far as I know, for at least a couple of years. I think about 2-3 years. Actually, she'd been in the comic since issue 25. Let's put it that way. So she'd been in the comic up until then for about 53 months, a little over two years. Actually, a little 53 months. Actually, it was 12, 20, a little over a few years. I think 4 years or something like that. Look, basically a little over a couple of years, 3 to 4 years. She had been in the comic. When you count 25 to 75, so basically about 50 issues, she had been in the comic at that time. So she was a little in over 4 years, and to me that was one of her biggest moments she had. And then it wasn't until about issue 78, 79, around those issues, when they started to adapt the Sonic Adventure game, that she really started to come into her own. You see, they did this little side story called I Want to Be a Freedom Fighter. Because basically she was sick and tired of being stuck on the sidelines, let's put it that way. She was sick and tired of being on the sidelines. So she was just sick and tired of being on the sidelines, and she wanted to join the Freedom Fighters. One of the reasons, of course, that she probably mentioned in a dialogue there is because she wants to be with Sonic, because she basically accused Sally of wanting Sonic all to herself. So, anyway, well, like I said, she accused Sally of wanting Sonic all to herself. And which was one of her main reasons to want to be a freedom fighter. But again, like I said, it was one of her main reasons why she wanted to be a freedom fighter. And, hold on for a sec. Sorry about that. But of course, Sally, she had to correct her. She had to basically, in her own way, say, no, that's not the reason or anything. But of course, Amy, wanting to be a freedom fighter, basically did what she felt was necessary. And what she did, from a continuity storyline standpoint, was she used an item called the Ring of Acorns. And the Ring of Acorns was, I think, a mystical item that had come into play around the early portions, the early 20s to mid portions of the comic. And it was something, again, I can't remember what issue it came into, but basically it was a magical item that allowed whoever used it to wish for anything they wanted. And Elizus, who was Sally's brother in the old continuity timeline, had the idea to probably use it to help heal their mother, Alicia Acorn, out of the coma that she was in, out of the basically the cryogenic state that she was in, to try to bring her back. And that didn't happen, although it didn't really have to happen, due to the fact that there was hints and stuff going throughout that she was coming back anyway. She was coming out of the coma, if you will. So basically, Amy, out of determination, I guess, to want to be a freedom fighter and be, on the team, and of course, as it's kind of hinted throughout, throughout the adventure and post-adventure run, wanting to be with Sonic, she basically beat Elizus to the punch and wished herself older on the Ring of Acorns, thus giving her basically her Sonic Adventure redesign outfit. That's that's basically what it was. And I will say that it was kind of interesting to see her do that in the comics. So anyway, like I said, it was basically that's how she got her redesign, was because of that, because she wanted to be on the Freedom Fighters. She wanted to be alongside Sonic, and you know, vice versa. And it was quite interesting, because Sonic Adventure actually expanded. It was probably one of the longest miniseries that they did, because it expanded from the regular comic run into a 48-page super special, and then concluded about an issue or two, several issues later, in the regular comic. And again, it was kind of hinted in those post-adventure issues that Amy had done this whole, oh, I'm gonna, you know, I'm aging myself so I can be with the Freedom Fighters and all that and all that. It was also shown and hinted at that she had done it basically to be with Sonic. So, yeah, that was one of the reasons she had wished herself older, if you catch my drift. But ever since then, Amy's character has developed. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it has been indicated, and they did several side stories on this, or at least one side story in the main comic. Well, it was indicated not just because the fans noticed it, but I think the fans realized that the characters had to acknowledge it itself, that it was acknowledged that even though she had wished herself older, got a new look, basically a makeover, that she was still mentally the same age as, you know, as Tails. That she was, that physically, although she was older, although she was a little bigger, physically, even basically it was physically she looked older, but in reality she was still the same age as Tails. So basically, yeah, you could basically the story in the book was, yeah, you can wish yourself older, Amy, but it doesn't mean you are. So yeah, basically that kind of kiboshed the fact that she wanted to be with Sonic right in the behind. It kiboshed it, if you will. So yeah, her plan to be with Sonic or try to be older, you know, by wishing on the Ring of Acorns and everything, was going to make her older and more acceptive and be able to do other things that she wouldn't be able to do if she was still the same, you know, size, that if she was still smaller and basically around that same physical age range as Tails. Yeah, it basically it was kiboshed right in her face, if you know what I mean. So yeah, excuse me. So yeah, any plans that she had to, make that happen kind of blew up in her face. Now, not saying that she didn't contribute, because they did finally do a story. I think it was in the Sonic Girls issue or something like that. I don't really know if it was a side story or it was in the Super Special, which was called Girls Rule. I can't really know. I think it was a side story. I'm not really sure. But they did do a story where she was officially brought in as she was officially given the title of a freedom fighter because she had proven her worth in battle. She was finally given officially finally given the title of a freedom fighter, being part of the freedom fighters. That's what it was. Now, what was interesting about her run in the old timeline, same continuity, old timeline, or original timeline, whatever you want to call it, is she had a cousin called Robbo the Hedge, which was basically a Robin the Hood, which was basically a Sonic look-alike. That was basically a Robin Hood character, based off Robin Hood. So, that's who her cousin was, and she did have a cousin-in-law, which was a female echidna, which was a take after Maid Marian. So, yeah, she did have family in the old timeline, in the original timeline. She did have family. Unfortunately, as a lot of people know, that timeline ceased to be. Now, before that ceasing happened, there were, like I said, she had her moments. She did develop and mature as a character, even in the old timeline, original timeline, whatever you want to call it. She did develop and grow. She did do that. Of course, they did do some side stories. Like she had a side story with Julie Sue Echidna, which was Knuckles' girlfriend, and which was basically a training story, a sparring / training story. And Julie Sue basically wanted to know, as we found out in that story, okay, why do you want me to train you? What's this all about? And basically, Amy admits, hey, if I can do this, Sonic will notice me, and I'll and he'll go with me. He'll be with me, and it's like, and Julie Sue's like, seriously, Amy, if that's what this is about, there's more to it. So, anyway, as the time went on, her character, depending on who the writer was, the head writer was, or who was writing the stories, her character did develop and progress and get more depth, and as well matured. She really did. And to me, one of the best examples of her maturing was issue 222. In issue 222, which was basically had been built up to from the ending of 211, the ending of the Iron Dominion arc. Basically, this was officially Sonic and Sally getting back together. They had gone on a date again for the first time in a long time. Again, it had been hinted at for about 11 issues straight, 10 to 11 issues straight. So they were going on a date to kind of try to test the waters again and see if maybe there was still something there, and obviously there was. And in one particular scene, they're getting dogged by all these people and even reporters about the whole situation that was going on with Nicole at the time. And who comes to the aid? Who comes to the rescue? None other than Amy Rose. Amy Rose comes to their aid, to the rescue, and says, hey, leave these two be. Let them enjoy themselves. And she tells them, hey, go enjoy yourselves. Have fun. Go have a blast, whatever. Enjoy each other's company. And to me, that was a great moment there, because in that scene as well, one of the characters that was asking questions and everything, asked Amy, hey, aren't you the girl that's always going gaga for Sonic? What's the deal? Shouldn't you be doing something about this? Or something like that. And she basically answers in probably the most mature way I think anybody, and this is actually Ian Flynn that did this issue, could write her. She basically said, look, yes, I do love Sonic. Yes, someday I do believe we're going to be together. But if being with Sally makes him happy, then his happiness is all that matters to me. And to me, or something like that, and to me, that was probably the best response you could ever get out of this character. I think what Ian Flynn had done was basically say, hey, look, enough's enough. This character is, I'm going to basically try, because here's the thing, right now in this new soft retcon, soft reboot of the same continuity, but it's an alternate timeline, or different timeline, new timeline, whatever. Ian Flynn doesn't want to deal with any more shipping of characters, boyfriend, girlfriend kind of thing, unless they're married. So, by doing what he did with Amy, in my opinion, he was trying to get the Son Amy fans to realize, hey, if your favorite is cool with him being with Sally, then why aren't you guys cool with the Sonic Sally supporters wanting those two to be together as well? What's the big deal? Here's a character that you want to be with Sonic, that's cool with him being with Sally, but yet you guys are not that way. Why can't you be? And honestly, that's my opinion. In my opinion, that's what Ian Flynn was trying to send via that one panel and scene. Now, of course, like I mentioned earlier, her family, her extended family, her cousin, her cousin-in-law, no longer exist thanks to the Genesis Wave, the soft retcon reboot. And she is still basically the same as she was towards the end of the original timeline. But, the one thing that they have done, and this was even in the original timeline, but the one thing that they have done here is they've kept a little bit of her fangirlishness. In other words, she's still a bit of a fangirl of Sonic's. She's still, of course, in love with him, even though, he teases her about it and everything. I mean, he does acknowledge that she has feelings for him, but he teases it. He teases it and everything, like, oh yeah, this and that. I mean, you look at some of the recent issues, you kind of see that at times. But Amy's character, in my opinion, has really, in the comics, has really grown, and I think you kind of see that reflected on the on things like Boom and like Sonic Boom and Sonic X and stuff like that in other areas. You kind of see that same development there. So I kind of like that. I really did. So in my opinion, I really did get a kick out of that. So like I said, I really did get a kick out of that. And yeah, she is, like I said, thanks to the comics, she has really really grown as a good character. There's no doubt about that. Like I said, she's really grown as a character, and I think again it all depends on who writes her character. Like, oh, this person, is this how it should be done and all that. I mean, she is really, like I said, she's really grown, and to me it's like, these are probably the best versions of Amy you have, especially thanks to the comic and everything. I mean, even Sonic Boom, which again, like I said, keeps her fangirlishness as well in there, has made her more level-headed. Sonic X, in a sense, certain moments and scenes and episodes made her level-headed. But again, they kept that quirkiness, that fangirlishness of hers in there, so that okay, this is the Amy you once saw before. So again, I really got a kick out of that. I really did. So to me, her character has really come a long way since her official debut in the 1993 Sonic CD game. She's really come, in my opinion, a very long way. I don't think there's any getting around that. I don't think there is, because here's a character that, in my opinion, has really grown into her own character, into her own person. And I don't think like I say, I don't think anything else could be said about it. I don't think anything else could be said about it. It's like one of those situations that you get a kick out of. So to me, overall, Amy, I believe, has really matured as a character. I mean, to me, there's just no getting around it or anything. She's, just really become her own character. And I really, like I said, I really like the fact that depending whether it's Sonic Boom, whether it's Sonic Boom, whether it's whether it's the comics or whatever, she's really come a long way. I mean, some of the Sonic Universe stories that she's in has really proven that as well. I mean, 256 kind of shows that she's grown and everything. Issue 256 of the main comic. So it's just a really great development of a character overall. And of course, you're still going to have your fans that want her to be with Sonic instead of Sally being with Sonic, and vice versa. But basically it's the old saying of to each its own. So that's really all I'm going to say on it. So like I said, that's really all I'm going to say on it for right now. Like I said, that's really all I'm going to say on it right now. So again, Amy Rose, definitely a character you should. Sorry, my finger hit the mic there. Definitely a character you should get behind and check out, especially if you're a Sonic fan, you're new to Sonic. And like I said, if you really want a more developed, fleshed out version of her, check out the Archie comics. Check them out. You'll definitely get what you're looking for there as well. So anyway, That's all I'm going to say for this 25th edition of the Animated Girl Profiles Confidential on Amy Rose. Hope you guys liked it, and let me know what you think down below.